River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode of Nights. I'm Dan here along with James and Eric, co-hosts. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
I'm all right. Eagles won. 49ers lost. So, I mean,
Yeah,
we didn't look better, pretty, but we won. 49ers lost, and hoping for that Christmas miracle.
Yeah, no, still recovering a little bit, but as we discussed yesterday, not all is that bad. But segue that into what we're going to talk about today. How did yesterday's performance affect the MVP odds? So I will go ahead and pull that up here. There we go, gentlemen, if we can all see that. These are from DraftKings as of December 27th, subject to change. Please gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem. There we go. Disclaimer out of the way. These are the newly updated MVP odds. Obviously, Lamar Jackson went all the way up to number 1. Christian McCaffrey is still number 2. And Brock Purdy only went down from 1 to 4. But now he's behind Tua Tagovailoa, who did lead an upset, or was it an upset? I don't remember. He did lead a victory over the Cowboys on Saturday, Sunday. I get all the dates mixed up now.
I mean, yeah, the Eagles lost to the Cowboys, but I still don't find it impressive.
Anyway, these are the we have all the rest of the top contenders all the way down to Micah Parsons. So yeah, I mean, I'll just open the floor to you guys. You two are the more apt gamblers than I am. What do you think of how these odds look now?
Well, it looks like the action now is definitely on Lamar Jackson now since yesterday's game or Monday's game. On my Hard Rock app, it was minus 180, so it looks like the odds are shifting due to heavy betting. And so, Christian McCaffrey right there at second, I think is still a good pick. I think if the 49ers, win the next 2 games and Christian gets a couple more touchdowns and Lamar just somehow poops the bed, in one of these 2 games or maybe both, then McCaffrey will end up being the MVP. I still think he's got a good shot. He's having one of the best seasons that a running back has ever had. And, if there's anybody other than a quarterback that's going to win it, it's going to be Christian McCaffrey. So I think those odds are good. But Purdy dropping below Tua, I think that's kind of harsh, given the fact that, he played a good team. He played a good defense, and, we've seen Patrick Mahomes, we've seen Joe Burrow play against good defenses and they get embarrassed. But so I think it's a little outrageous that he dropped below Tua. I don't think Tua is the 3rd best player in the league right now. I still think it's Brock Purdy.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, James. I mean, watching the game Monday night, Lamar is special back there. I mean, the way that he's able to just buy time and manipulate the game with his feet is just something that, I mean, I don't watch a lot of Ravens games, but seeing him play last night, like, it's just remarkable to see. I mean, he buys so much time and they're so effective at that stupid scramble drill bullcrap where he just runs around and makes something happen. And then one of their receivers gets open. And then we had him dead to rights on a 3rd and 16 or whatever. And then he took off for a 30-plus yard run and didn't even get touched until he decided to go down, essentially. So, I mean, he's got a gift with his feet and he's got a good arm too. So, I mean, he was the total package in the game on Monday night. He probably deserves to be sitting where he's sitting right now. I guess from an overall numbers perspective, though, like, his numbers, like,
they're not really that impressive.
Yeah. I mean, like, his overall numbers
they're not
are
the flashiest.
Yeah, so, I don't think it's his best season. I mean, obviously his 2019 season was his best season and he just went off. Like, this season compared to that season is very, I don't know, pedestrian, mediocre. I don't know what you want to call it compared to that season. I mean, he could still have a 3,000 and 1,000 yard season, and he would be the only person to do it, one time, two times ever in the history of the league. So there's something to be said about that. But does basically a mediocre season for Lamar Jackson when it comes to numbers beat Christian McCaffrey, who's having a career year and probably one of the best seasons a running back has ever had?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at Lamar's passing numbers, he's got
3,200, right? It's 3,200 yards.
He's got 3,300 now. He's got 19 touchdowns. He has 7 picks. I mean, okay. I mean, that's not great.
I mean,
what are his running numbers on there?
I'm trying to look that up right now.
But I mean, you look at his even his turnover worthy plays. Like if we just look at times where he fumbles that he hasn't lost, it's like he has 11 fumbles on the year. Not, just a lost fumble, but he has lost the ball 11 times when he's been running or in the backfield or whatever. Like 11 fumbles, like
yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's like Jalen Hurts right now. That's like, right up top when you look at turnover worthy plays. I don't know what his interception, turnover worthy plays are, but literally 11 fumbles in a year. That's almost one a game, and that he's putting it on the ground, giving the defense an opportunity to get a turnover in those points. So, can an MVP win with that many turnover worthy plays?
He's got 786 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns rushing. So, I mean, he's only got 24 total touchdowns. I mean, that's not a lot. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but he's leading what's the best team in the NFL. So, I mean, I don't really know how you take that away from him. But, I mean, just from a statistical standpoint, there's a number of quarterbacks, including Purdy, who have better statistics than he does.
Yeah. I mean,
we know narrative weighs into it. Like it's not biased towards numbers. It's biased towards the narrative is absolutely a factor into it. And the fact that Lamar Jackson held out and demanded money, and then he got his money. No, it wasn't the Deshaun Watson contract, but he got money that made him happy. And he said, all right, well, I'm going to lead this team to the Super Bowl. And damn it, some of the games are ugly, but he's doing it. Like it's the perception of him regaining being the face of the league because Patrick Mahomes is crap in the bed. Josh Allen's just very volatile up and down. And he just took down Brock Purdy, and his defense make Brock Purdy play the worst game he's probably had since college. Like, so all that is as much importance as the numbers. Like, efficient, sure, nothing flashy though. But the fact that Lamar Jackson is trying to reestablish that he is the most valuable player, and it's time for Patrick Mahomes to step back a little bit, and everybody remember Lamar Jackson again. Like, that seems to be what the case is. Because I mean, no, Tua being in the top 4 is kind of, I get it, but versus Christian and Purdy, like, no, it should be the 3 of them. Like, it should be the 3 of them. Tua should be 4th. And I would argue Christian should be number 1 personally. But I mean, there's, I don't know. I'm diverging. But what were you going to say, James?
Oh, I'm just saying, like, Lamar could still easily crap the bed these last 2 games, and very much make a way for Christian to take over that top spot. I mean, plus 400 is decent odds to get on Christian McCaffrey right now, being that there's 2 more games left in the season. Anything can happen, and I maybe even taking Purdy, maybe even taking Purdy at plus 1,200. I mean. Like, yeah,
did Christian cross 2,000 total yards, Eric? Since you're kind of our researcher, did he hit 2,000 yards last night?
I don't think so, but I'll look.
Yeah,
I know he was close.
He's close. I mean, he's leading the league in rushing. How many receiving yards does he have? How many touchdowns does he have? Like, Christian is like. People can, you are like looking at those
He's
numbers.
At least surpassed Tyreek as offensive player of the year.
Yes, and you look just at those lines, you can tell that people think Christian McCaffrey is the most valuable player on the 49ers, the most valuable player on the best team in the NFC, not Brock Purdy. And basically, if you can argue that Christian's ability to be a threat in the pass game and in the run game has basically what has made Purdy so successful. You can argue that case, that Christian McCaffrey is the most valuable player on the most impressive team in the NFC now. And Lamar Jackson could easily have a night like Brock Purdy. He could easily have 3-4 picks in the night, because you never know what you're going to get with the Ravens. The Ravens play up and down to their competition. I mean, so yeah, I don't think Lamar is like the solid lock that I would put him at minus 160. Like everybody's betting. Like I still would say, like, even at this point with the pedestrian numbers that he has, Christian McCaffrey is the more valuable player to his team. And you can, like, Lamar Jackson literally basically needed, what, 4 picks from the opposing quarterback to put up 33 points. Like, if he really was something, like, I think, like, it would have been him going mad on everybody, like maybe Michael Vick did against the Commanders in 2010. Like, he just does, like that's what I would need from Lamar Jackson to make me say this season that he's more valuable to his team than Christian McCaffrey. It's easy to win games, tight games, close games, garbage games when your defense only gives up 16.1 points a game.
So to answer your question, Dan, Christian is over 1,900 yards, but he's not over 2,000 total yet. He's at like 30 some.
And how many receiving versus how many rushing?
He's got 1,395 rushing and 537 receiving.
And how many total touchdowns does he have?
21.
21 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought last night was 22. Okay.
And then another interesting stat about Lamar, since we're talking about him, he has 6 games where he doesn't even throw for 200 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like,
yeah, I don't think he's the most valuable player on his team. I think it's the defense.
Yeah, I think so.
He's the most valuable player on that team. I don't think it's Lamar Jackson, and people are just putting him up there because he's the best quarterback on the best team. But I think once it comes kind of voting and there's actually narratives going for each of these players, I think, honestly, the voters are going to go with Christian McCaffrey. I really do think so, because he's the one consistent thing. He's Purdy is great. I think Purdy is elite, but at the same time, Christian McCaffrey has been the most valuable players to the 49ers. And people have said, and maybe there is some truth, that Christian McCaffrey literally opens up everything else for Purdy and makes Purdy's job easier. And yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey really should be the favorite than Lamar Jackson.
How much you make a defensive coordinator sweat should be a big factor into this vote, because Lamar Jackson definitely has that because of his ability to run and throw, especially this year where they tried to make him a pocket passer more than a runner, which I heard that's what we planned for, but then it just opens to run. Like, he does it. He's been doing it so well his entire career, but that's what Christian does. You have to. It's almost impossible to account for what is he going to do. Is he going to get open and make a catch, or is he just going to run us over because he's that strong as a runner? Like, it makes defense. The fact that he makes defenses have to account for him to such a degree. Same with Lamar Jackson. Like, they definitely have that in common. But when we look at what what have they put on the table, like, versus the potential, no, Christian McCaffrey has been the offense as good as Brock Purdy has been. I agree. And I've been singing Brock Purdy's praises all year. Like, no, last year was definitely a reality check. Like, he got completely toasted by the Ravens defense, and Christian still had a pretty good over 100-yard game. Like, I get why why Lamar is up there right now, because he's a quarterback, and quarterbacks. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey, I think, like if the voting was today, like I would hope that the voters actually realize that Christian should be, like, if we have to pick between Lamar and Christian.
Well, yeah, and Eric, can you look up Lamar's stats from 2019 and see what his stats were in that MVP season?
Rip for 3 seconds. I'll be right back.
Lamar only has 5 rushing touchdowns on the season too, and hasn't scored a rushing touchdown in 8 weeks.
Yeah. And what were his stats in 2019? I mean, his rushing stats were way higher than what they are now.
So he had in 2000, is this the right? Yeah, in 2019, he had a similar amount of yards. He only had 3,100 yards, but he had 36 touchdown passes, only 6 interceptions. And then he had 1,206 yards rushing.
And how many yards passing?
3,100.
So yeah, that's an MVP season. You know, that's an MVP season, not what he's doing now.
Yeah,
you know,
that was his MVP season that you were just reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had over 3,000 yards passing, over 1,200 yards rushing. He was literally the first player to do those two things in the same season, plus 36 touchdowns, like 36 passing touchdowns, right, Eric?
Yeah, 36 passing touchdowns. Yeah.
How many rushing touchdowns?
7. So he
accounted for 43. You know, he counted for 43 touchdowns versus 6 picks, and that's an MVP season. I don't think what he's doing now is an MVP season as compared to what Christian is doing this season.
Yeah,
I just want to say
this year, like I said, he's got 3,300 yards, so a little bit more yards, but only 19 touchdowns, 7 picks, so 1 more pick already, and only 5 touchdowns. So I mean, he's got a chance to make up the touchdowns, but he's only at 786 yards. So I mean, he's never going to get close to the amount of yardage that he had. So I mean,
he would literally need to rush for 200 each game.
Yeah,
to get back up. That's how big the difference is from his first MVP season to this. And his first MVP season, he was the cheat code. He was literally a cheat code. And on Madden, he was just going Madden on everybody. He's not doing that this year. He's not going Madden on everybody. And if there's any player that's going Madden on everybody right now on a consistent basis, it's Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I agree.
I just want to say, because his career started with Greg Roman, Colin Kaepernick walked so Lamar Jackson could run. I just
I
just felt like forcing that in there.
I'm a Randall man. It wasn't. Randall walked so that Kaepernick
Cap could run.
We got to remember Michael Vick in there then too. So
Michael Vick, yes, Michael Vick. But
Randall ran so Vic could fight dogs.
Man.
Don't say that's too soon.
I don't know. Too soon. But I think I don't know. I mean, if Christian can crack the 25 touchdown barrier and certainly get over, he should get over 2,100 total yards, could probably get to 2,200 total yards with 2 really good games over the next couple of weeks. I don't know how you're going to say that he's not the MVP of the league. I mean, he's the best player on the best team in the NFC for sure. He's been the most dominant force for the 49ers and been a dominant force in every game. There hasn't been a game where he's been shut down or taken out of the game by anybody by any stretch of the imagination. I think that I hope that people look back at that and look back at the totality of the season and kind of compare numbers and look and say, the Lamar guy, he's probably going to be lucky to get to 3,600 yards.
And you also think, what player has showed up week in, week out, every single week for his team, win, lose, or draw, every single week, and basically, is the whole offense, is a big part of the offense, over 2,100 yards. He's probably going to have 22 he's at 22 now, right? 22 touchdowns.
21.
So he'll probably finish with 24 touchdowns, over 2,000 yards of offense, literally driving the 49ers offense. Look at last year when they had their offense and what it looked like without Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And so he's been the best player on the best team, and he's the best player. He's right now, in my mind, he's the best player in the league. Lamar is not having that much of an impressive season. He hasn't showed up week to week to week like Christian McCaffrey has. Plus 400, I'm sure Eric's going to take it, or he hasn't taken it. He's taken it already.
Maybe.
It's right in your range, Eric. It's plus 400. It's like right in your safe bet range.
I know it is. It is. So, I don't know. I'd like to. Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say, I was going to squish this down. I didn't say it in yesterday's episode, but I think it's worth predicting. I think it will happen this way when we play Washington, that Washington is going to end up being Steve Buscemi and the wood chipper in Fargo. I think we're gonna take down Washington pretty bad, and Christian McCaffrey is going to get at least. I don't know. Maybe I'm just still bitter about yesterday, but I have a sneaky suspicion with how Washington season's gone that we're going to really run over them, and Christian will probably get 2 touchdowns. That's just my guess, though. Like, I'm not trying to sound like that guy. I don't know. Washington is very underwhelming.
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
So, it is possible, too, that Purdy comes out and plays really well in these next 2 games and vaults himself right back into the conversation. He's sitting on a 4,000-yard season right now. He's got 29 touchdowns. He does have 11 picks. But, the rest of his numbers are just off the chart. So, if he comes out and throws for, 7 more touchdowns over the next 2 weeks, that puts him at 36, 35 touchdowns, and he throws for 4,500 yards for the entire season, still with only 11 picks. Maybe he doesn't throw a pick over the next 2 weeks. I don't know that he doesn't vault himself back up into contention there.
Yeah, that could very easily happen too. Lamar could, crap the bed. He could not have very impressive games these last 2 games. Purdy could easily, vault over him by having 2 decent games going into that. But the voters have tended to hold, certain losses against quarterbacks, because really quarterbacks, the wins and losses they attribute them to quarterbacks. And so with the loss over Lamar, that might, I don't know. It might, unless Lamar really craps the bed, like I don't necessarily see Purdy vaulting over Lamar, but definitely, just plain numbers, plain most valuable person to their team is Christian McCaffrey, hands down. Lamar's not. That defense is, and on that team, and yeah.
Hey, I'm back.
Were
you guys still here the whole time that I was gone?
Yeah, we were. We just started talking, so it's fine. We covered for you. It could. Well, it'll be interesting to see how Lamar plays against the Dolphins, right? If he comes out and doesn't have a good game against them, perhaps it changes that whole narrative. And like we were talking about, maybe McCaffrey moves him to be the lead, or Dan, you probably missed it, but James and I were talking. If Purdy comes out and throws for a combination of 500 some yards and 7 touchdowns over the next 2 games, which is not unreasonable given who we're playing, he could vault himself right back up into the conversation. He'll have 4,500 yards and 36 some touchdowns for the season. I don't know how you say those aren't MVP numbers, especially with all the other metrics that he has.
Well, some of the quarterbacks though that have won MVP in the past are upwards in the 40 touchdown range and 4,500 yard passing yards and things like that, or close to 4,800 passing yards. And so, but there's a lot of reasons why that is, for Purdy. Purdy's out in the 4th quarter, so he has less passing attempts, so there is still a narrative to have him be MVP. I think it's just, he just those numbers for a quarterback in an MVP season is, I don't think they're that impressive, but if you take into consideration like how the voters will look, like the voters will look at like, okay, the final numbers, really the final numbers aren't super impressive given the way the game has gone and some of the MVP seasons that quarterbacks have had in the past, like Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes, things like that. Like with the passing numbers, they're just off the chains, they're so far above the rest. Purdy, probably because, he's out of these games at the fourth quarter, is losing some of that. And if a writer who hasn't seen every single 49ers game or doesn't know that narrative, then, I think the vote will go to Christian before it'll go to Purdy.
Yeah, there's only 2 4,000-yard passers right now. It's Tua and Purdy are the only guys with 4,000 yards. There's a bunch of guys sort of stacked up that should at least cross the 4,000-yard barrier by the end of the season. So like Goff's at 3,900, Mahomes is at 3,900, Prescott's at 3,800, Allen's at 3,700, Lawrence, who's hurt now, is at 3,700, Stafford's at 3,600, Hurts is at 3,600. That's about it. Stroud's at 3,600. I don't think he'll get there. But the TD mark is pretty low this season too. Prescott's leading the NFL in touchdowns, and he's only got 30. So, I mean, like nobody's going to get to 40 touchdowns this season. I mean, no one's going to get that far. So
Purdy could leapfrog him if, that's only one touchdown above Purdy. He could end up leapfrogging him if things fall in a certain way. And no, I agree. If he can get back to the 115, 120 passer rating efficiency that he had been, or even like 130, let's say, because he was a little bit higher like that. Like if he can get back into that efficiency and lock up the number 1 seed, and you can look at it as he had, what would that be then? 13-4. You still led a team to a 13-4, and you did that with the 4 losses that you did have, including one very embarrassing loss. Like maybe the narrative could be spun for him to possibly upset Lamar Jackson, since it would be an upset now, and Christian, his own teammate. I mean, I don't disagree that it could happen. It could. I'm still in the waves of losing yesterday, but
it could. But I think like if you stack up those numbers, along Christian McCaffrey's, like my vote would still go with McCaffrey easily.
What McCaffrey is doing as a running back is closer to what Peyton Manning did when he threw 55 touchdowns, for sure. If we're looking at it relative speaking, because no, Purdy's numbers is not the same as Matt Ryan's numbers when he won in 2016. No, efficiency wise, he's better, but no, the flashy numbers, like when agents say you got to put up the flashy numbers to get paid. No, he's not going to hit 5,000 yards. He's not going to hit 40 touchdowns probably. Like, no, it wouldn't be the flashiest MVP, but for what he did and how he dominated outside of those couple losses, no. I mean, if we're going to add narrative into it, I mean, like how it always happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a statistical guy. To me, stats still matter. So, I mean, if we're looking at it from a strictly statistical perspective, Lamar is 15th in the league in yards this season. He is 14th in the league in touchdowns. He is he's pretty low in interceptions, so that's good for him. He is where is he? Sam Howell has just been sacked so many times. Lamar is 5th in sacks. He's been sacked 36 times. Lamar is 8th in QBR.
But that's not a real stat.
Okay.
Take QBR out of that. That's not a real stat. That's an ESPN made up stat.
Lamar is 8th in overall rating. So, I mean, and he's behind guys like Russell Wilson, Jared Goff, CJ Stroud. I mean, he's behind
none of those guys you would put up in the MVP race.
Right. So, I mean, like, I just don't. It's very hard for me to say we're going to have a guy win MVP when he's not even in the top 10
Yeah.
in some statistical categories. I mean, it just strikes me as a lot of recency bias.
It would really be bogus. Like that would be literally an MVP you could put an asterisk by and say this was the season that it started. Best quarterback, the quarterback on the best team, no matter regardless of stats.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas
That's literally where you could put if it happens. Like, because we've seen it before, but the quarterbacks have had astronomical numbers. They've had Madden numbers. So you could easily say, like, the best quarterback on the best team deserved to be MVP. But in this case, it's not. Like, Eric has pulled up the stats. In this case, it's not. He's not, with his stats lined up, he's nowhere near the top in some of these categories.
Yeah. Now, if we flip that narrative, right, and we look at McCaffrey, okay, he is leading the league in attempts. He's got 258 attempts. He's just ahead of Derrick Henry. He is leading the league in yards by 340 some yards. He is, averages gets jacked up here, so I'll have to skip that for a second. He has the 5th longest carry of the season. He has the 2nd most 20-yard rushing plays at 9. Jahmyr Gibbs is ahead of him with 10. He has the 3rd most rushing touchdowns in the NFL behind Mostert and Hurts. He has the 2nd most yards per game at 93 yards per game. And he has the most first downs in the NFL at 78. So, I mean, like, there's a guy who's across the top of the board leading the leaderboard in the top 1, 2, 3 or whatever in every statistical category for his position. Like, I don't understand the debate really. It should be McCaffrey.
It would be a sham. It would literally be a sham. And you could very much just say this was the year. This was the year numbers went out the window and quarterback wins and it became a quarterback award. And yeah, I think it would be a travesty if Christian McCaffrey didn't win MVP.
Yeah, I agree.
It should be, if it's got to be the quarterback, hopefully Purdy can bounce back and reestablish it. But no, really, like you guys laid out, I think Christian, no, by those, like how it should be going, then absolutely. I think though, guys,
and McCaffrey bought the whole offensive team golf clubs. I mean, what more can you ask for a guy?
And tequila.
Yeah, and tequila.
Give Purdy a break. I mean, come on. He's literally on Mr. Irrelevant money. I mean, his contract he makes what, $700,000?
Cry Me a River, he makes $700,000.
Yeah, but compared to his counterparts, I mean, Joe Flacco is making more than
He is.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, run us out with the sponsor.
Yes, we need to give a shout out to our awesome sponsor who's been helping us out all season, RoyalRetros.com. What is RoyalRetros.com? It is your go-to place to get an authentic throwback jersey. They cover all the major sports, but for us football fans, since this is a football podcast, go check out the Candlestick Collection. They have a ton of 49er-themed items, as well as some Giants and I believe Warriors. I was more worried about the Niners stuff when I was looking at it, but when you find something nice that you like, go ahead and throw it in your cart and use the promo code Shady Sports, and they'll get 10% off of your entire order, not just the one item. It goes your entire cart. So again, use the promo code.
Use the promo code Shady Sports at RoyalRetros.com to get 10% off your entire order, not just one item. And so, since Dan controls the show, we're basically going to say here, if you can hear us right now, we have a great episode coming up on Friday, an interesting parlay episode that we're bringing to you, something we brought up 2 or 3 weeks ago. That we're going to have a little fun with the parlay since we haven't hit. We're going to try something really, really different. Stay tuned Friday for our parlay picks, because it's not going to be the typical way that you pick a team. You don't look at the team and say it's better than the other team. It's going to be, just to give you a little hint, we're doing mascot versus mascot. So stay tuned for that on Friday.
All right. Well, I guess with that, we're going to sign off since Dan is bailed out of the show and we're covered up by the promo banner.
That's right, guys. Come join us on Friday, and you'll see us do those parlay picks. Outro music, River Road, Justin Muth.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the way you whine and cry.